Much of it is we don't know. So there's an Aquila tried to produce a Greek translation that was very literal, but not really very readable. The most influential individual was one of only two church fathers who could read Hebrew, Origen. He's a third century church father. He's the big one because he's producing a hexapla. Origen was an absolute genius. Just a, it's really too bad because tradition has it that he was halakhically Jewish. Legend has it. There are sources for this. Can't be sure of it, but he was just an absolute genius, and he knew Hebrew, and he wrote hundreds of books. Jerome says he wrote 2,000 books in his life. He had many assistants. He had sponsors. Um, but he knew Hebrew. He was really just a flat out genius, and so he's the guy who knows Hebrew and produces a hexapla, which is um, a six um, column work, which has in it his version of the Septuagint. So his influence is overwhelming. It, but it is clearly a cottage industry, and in fact, it's striking that the the King James translators have a preface to the King James, which few people read, I suspect. But in their preface, they write about why they chose to go to the Hebrew and translate that. Now, in truth, they really were relying on the Bishop's Bible and the Tyndale Bible a lot. And they don't give it enough credit, but like probably 80% of the King James Bible is really just uh, previous Bibles that were done in the 16th century. Like Tyndale's is roughly a century prior to the King James. Tyndale was executed for doing what he did. But regardless, they write in their preface that there were so many Greek translations by so many, like, this is just completely ridiculous. We can't rely on this at all. So they outline why they're going to the Hebrew. Jerome's remarks about this as well, because initially he was set to translate the Bible into Latin from the Septuagint. But he said, well, there's so many Greek things. It was a cottage industry. And to understand this, that the Greek language, first, I'm going to say this, and it's not completely correct. I mean, it's an overstatement, but it's good enough to get us in the right place. So roughly in this period of time, third, fourth century, the Greek language was in the West what English is today. Now, in truth, there was never a language that was as dominant as the English language ever. The English language says. So it's not quite that much, but it's along those lines. That was the. So you can imagine, let's say, all kinds of Christian communities, Greek-speaking Christian communities in North Africa and so on, wanted a Bible in Greek, and Jews who were Hellenized wanted a Bible in Greek. So it's a cottage industry. We know some of the names that pop up, but the person who's really most responsible is definitely the smartest church father or church scholar, and that's Origen, the third century, who's really responsible for the Septuagint read. And one of the things you can point out, because you're almost certainly going to be dealing with the Protestant in your conversation, is the Septuagint includes the Apocrypha. If, how could you believe that the Apocrypha, which you don't believe is the Word of God, would include, this be in the Septuagint? Like, why would the Septuagint be translating the Book of Maccabees, including it? So it's so transparent that this is not a holy work and not something to be regarded, because evangelical Protestants reject all these called deuterocanonical texts and only believe in the 39 books that the Jews believe in. So, that pretty much ends the conversation right there.